So I'm not going to say too much about myself because you see me all the time, and most of you know me anyway. But I'm going to do something a little bit unorthodox. Before I read my poem from Mildred, which some of you may have heard before because I did read it at the OPA conference, but I like it. But before I read that poem, I'm going to read to you a book I wrote, a book. And I wrote it about 9 years ago, and I couldn't finish it. I couldn't figure out a last line that I liked. And I put it together into a book, and I was talking to my friend, T.K. Lanzuri, who is a black woman, and she was talking about how God is always, an old white man. This was just a few days ago. And she said, I wish God was a fat black woman. And I said, oh, he is. I wrote a book about him once. And so I dug it out, and I miraculously came up with a good last line. So I pasted it in. And I have about 3 copies of this pasted-in book, which I will give to anyone who buys a Mildred book for free. And then I'm going to put it all together again as a very nice book without any pasting in. But you may like it well enough to want it. So, here we go. And it's a picture book, and I don't know if it's for children or for adult children. But it's called Elsa Who Learned to Love God. One day, God decided he was sick to death of being an old white man with a long white beard who lived in a castle in the sky. She wanted to be a young black woman with a long black robe and a big, round, beautiful belly tight as a drum who lived in a castle in the sky. There she is. And so she got up off her deep velvet throne, and so she put on her long black velvet robe, and lovely she drummed on her beautiful belly, and lovely she started to dance. She's dancing. And while God was drumming, the whole world was dancing. And while God was dancing, the whole world started to sing. There she is, dancing and singing. Only one old woman did not sing. Only one old woman did not dance. Her name was Elsa, and she did not love God. She did not even believe in God. Elsa lived all alone in a place called a nursing home. It was a place full of old, sad people, and Elsa was the oldest and the saddest of all. Elsa could not walk anymore. She was too old. Elsa could not talk anymore. She was too old. She could not even think anymore very clearly. She was too old. Her head hurt her, and her heart hurt her, and her left shoulder hurt her very badly. And worst of all, she was very, very lonely. I heard all over, said Elsa to anybody who would listen, but she did not speak with her mouth. She was too old. She spoke with her old, sad eyes, and nobody heard her. The nurses were sorry for Elsa, but they were all very, very busy. There wasn't much they could do to help Elsa, not much at all. If only you loved God, dear Elsa, God would help you, said Martina to Elsa. Martina was a young nurse's aide who had come to this country all the way from a tiny country far to the south called Belize. Martina was working hard to earn money so that someday she could go to nursing school. I do not love God, said Elsa's sad eyes. There is no God anywhere on earth, And even if there was God, he's no good to me. God is an old white man with a long white beard who lives in a castle in the sky. He doesn't love me. Why should I love him? My grandmother taught me to always love God, Martina spoke softly. And gently she washed up Elsa's old sad face, and gently she pulled a soft woolen blanket up over Elsa's left shoulder, the one that hurt the most. Soon Elsa was sleeping. In her dream she heard drumming. What is that beautiful sound? Elsa said to herself in her dream. In her dream she saw dancing. Who is that beautiful dancer? Elsa said to herself in her dream. In her dream, Elsa started to sing. God sang beside her. But she did not recognize God. She did not even believe in God. Not at all. When Elsa woke up, she was very, very sad. I heard beautiful music, said Elsa's sad eyes to Martina, but now it is gone. I saw beautiful dancing, said Elsa's sad eyes, but now it is gone. My head hurts, and my shoulder hurts, and my heart hurts worst of all. And my throat hurts from singing. My throat is so dry, pleaded Elsa's old eyes. Elsa opened her mouth very wide. She stuck out her dry tongue. Martina went out to get Elsa some water. While Martina was gone, a young and beautiful black woman with a round and beautiful belly, tight as a drum, came dancing into the room. Lovely, she wore a long black velvet robe. Lovely, it flowed like the summer night sky all around her. In my castle, God murmured in her beautiful voice that sounded like music, you will dance. Oops, skipped a page. Would you like to come fly with me? The beautiful black woman asked Elsa in the most beautiful voice Elsa ever had heard. It sounded as if she were singing, not talking. It sounded like music, like magic. Would you like to come live in my castle in the sky? But Elsa was too old and too tired to think about castles in the sky. My head hurts, she said, and my heart hurts, and my left shoulder hurts worst of all. And worse than all that is my sadness. I am very, very lonely. Of course, Elsa did not say these things in words. She was too old and too tired to use words. She spoke with her sad, dry, old eyes. That didn't matter, though, because the beautiful black woman in the long black velvet robe understood the language of eyes. In my castle, God murmured in her beautiful voice that sounded like music, you will dance and you will sing. Your shoulder won't hurt anymore, and your head won't hurt anymore, and your heart won't hurt either. Best of all, murmured God into Elsa's old ear, you will never be lonely again. Elsa did not believe what she heard, but she was too old and too tired to argue. When the beautiful black woman wrapped her up in her long black velvet robe and carried her off, she did not even struggle. They traveled for a long time. They traveled past stars and past suns and past moons. They traveled for 9 million years. Finally, they came to the castle in the sky. When they got there, God opened her long black velvet robe, and nobody knows for sure what happened next. But I believe when God opened that robe, there was no tired old woman hiding inside. What came out of God's robe was a sweet little girl. How does your shoulder feel now? Asked God, setting the little girl down on a cloud by her throne. Fine, said the little girl, smiling. How does your head feel? Fine, smiled the sweet little girl. How does your heart feel? Happy, said Elsa. Come, sit on my lap, said God, holding her arms out. Put your arms tight around my neck and hold me like you love me. I do love you, God, said Elsa. I believe you, said God, and she kissed her on both cheeks. And then they both started to laugh, and then they both started to drum on God's beautiful belly. And somewhere on earth, a new child was born. Thank you. And as I said, you can have this book if you buy Mildred. First 3 people. The next poem we're going to read is also a true story too. Well, yes. And it's called The Night of Red Foxes. And here's how it goes. It was during that sort of magical time after the millennium, but before the towers came down. And then they came down. I remember the therapist trying to calm me, who was curled up in her overstuffed chair, knees to my chin. But it wasn't the towers that did it, not really. But the cord that somehow had snapped between me and a man who that same week, with no word of goodbye, simply disappeared out of my life. But this was before all of that. I was living in Boulder, taking care of my mom, who was dying, had been for some time, and me always there. But for this weekend, I left her behind and drove myself into the mountains for a Colorado Springs poetry conference. Not even the cell phone was working due to the mountains. I didn't have a lot of money, maybe none, except for the cash that she'd give me now and then, and the meager paycheck I got from my part-time job at the Boulder Mall Art Mart. So I just slept in my car outside of the conference hall, right in the middle of town. But I didn't sleep well. I kept waking. And here's where the miracle comes in. There were foxes. I mean, everywhere foxes. Red and gaunt, fast and curious. They were trotting up and down the streets, over the sidewalks, under cars, into garbage cans, up onto porches, down under houses, all night long in a silence that later would become ominous when it meant no planes overhead. But for now, all it meant was that foxes know how to be quiet. And though later, when I got back to Boulder, my mom wasn't doing so well and I wished that I hadn't left her alone, and though it wasn't long after that that the towers came down and my phone stopped ringing, but that night I was happy, alone in the quiet and the dark of my car, and I was in love, or I thought so, and everywhere foxes. And that's the end of my reading for you.